Welcome to the first episode of the Eric Bell Experience. I'm joined with guest Erica Harris, and it's of ImpactedWriter.com. She had originally, I was very first interested in her work when I heard of a concept called lavish listening. And well, she just found out she had a little bit of a shift in different new perspectives, and it was something totally different. And I'll just go let her explain the summary of what that exactly was all about.
Thanks, Eric. Well, congratulations on the launch of your show. I'm glad your voice is going to be out in the world in this way, in this experiential way. So, building on the work that was lavish listening, something recently happened that impacted me, and that was a peyote quest that I had like about a week and a half ago. And so it was like 12 hours. And during that time, one of the things that I was shown was how I got to like where I am right now in reverse. And it was nothing more than a series of like choices and conversations. And they came about from tension. They came about from conflict, discomfort, pain, okay? And the common denominator every time was that I understood something to be true inside of me, and then the world outside of me was not in agreement. That's what it was every single time. So whether that meant the truth in my heart was like, you are not flourishing in this 9-to-5 corporate environment. But then the world outside me is like, oh, but you need money, and oh, this is where you are, and there's the conflict. What do I do with that? Okay, and so then I let truth and honesty speak to that. Truth and honesty got me, getting into freelancing, dipping my toe into Upwork, and then, keep on moving, keep on going to the true honest thing, honoring that. That's what honesty is to honor the thing that is inside of, that was inside of me. And I kept doing that enough, just a little series of conversations with myself and with others, and then boom, I was a freelancer. Okay, so that's like one example, and you can add that to every other thing. Leaving the city of Chicago and moving to a smaller village, the truth inside me said, whoa, girl, this city, you loved it for 20 years. It's been awesome to you, but it's loud and crowded and frantic, and you need more peace and grass. And your nervous system it's over it. Your nervous system wants a quieter, more tranquil life. So there's the tension, there's the conflict, there's the disagreement. And then there has to be a series of conversations, steps made toward the truer thing, the more honest thing. So the revelation was like, wow, like it's not a magical thing at all. It's just it's like tension from inside. Actually, the tension doesn't come from inside. It's because truth is inside. Could be as simple as, hey, Eric, want to grab a beer after work? And then, man, I'm tired. I got no sleep last night, 14-hour day. And you know that you really just would rather go home and chill with Netflix. That's your truth. But you've got a friend who wants beer with you and wants to hang with you. So that conflict, that tension is the opportunity for social honesty. And so I understood very quickly. And this is interesting because like some things, can take like ages. Like you hear some people say, I worked on that book for 9 years or something, and I've been working on, certain things and projects for, a decade, and enough of that. It's time to quantum some stuff. So like what I understand about social honesty, which is basically lavish listening 2.0. Social honesty is like, it is a space that I will hold for a very particular kind of person. It's a person who is self-aware enough, to know that if truth speaks inside of them. Okay, so they know, like, do you want beer after dinner? Like, if you can't be self-aware enough to know the answer to that, then you're not a good candidate for me to serve you. So you at least need to have enough self-awareness to know, like, do you want beer after work? All right, and then if you find, and this is where it'll, like most people will probably identify with this, if you find it difficult to say your truth, You don't want to hurt your friend's feelings. You want to chill with Netflix, but you kind of like, you betray yourself so that you can keep your friend happy. And that's the story that a lot of us have, and maybe it passes as thoughtfulness or consideration, but I'm going to make the stand and say that it's actually dishonest. I'm going to say that, like, you know, I want to put the challenge forth that couldn't we cultivate friendships that could be sturdy enough to handle, you know, oh man, I would love to hang with you, but not tonight. You know, Thursday for sure. Like let's not be so fragile that we just like fall into automatic lying and self, you know, negation out of something called courtesy. I'm calling bullshit on that. And the reason why is because I really feel like in the realm of, you know, freedom, liberty, anarchy, you know, whatever noble virtue is wanting to, you know, be more present in the world, it is going to be slow progress if it has to be delivered through the mouth of someone so milky that they can't even say no to beer after work.
So it's to understand is, of course, it's and of course, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's an emphasis on, you know, finding ways meets people's needs, but not at the expense of your own. If that makes sense. Which,
yes.
And I guess which I also hear is that you don't actually have to meet their needs at all if you don't want to, though. But
so actually, I would say that. Hold on, because I'm not sure what this shape is called. But it's kind of like a teardrop. But anyway, you know. So, you know, this is you, this is me, and then this is where we work out our stuff. So
right.
If, you know, whether people want to fill this with NVC approach, whether they want to fill it with whatever, the point is, this is where it's worked out. And the how, you know, that's part of the work that I'm going to offer. And it also, I mean, like for the autodidact, you know, they may already have some ideas or skills in them. I'm just wanting to kind of show this real simple thing about, guys, this is where it all happens, even in terms of the state and freedom. This is where we work it out. This is what we say taxation is theft. This is where we work it out. Are we paying taxes? Are we avoiding, or what are we doing? Okay, whatever the truth is, this is where it's worked out. And it's kind of like, in a way, it's almost so, it's like so basic, but I find it just utterly missing in most human interaction. Like even like people who consider themselves friends with each other play these games of illusion and masquerades. And I usually just sit back. I'm like so fucking perplexed about it, and I'm tired of being confused about it. You know, like moving through life, like, why is it such an oddity, at least in American culture? I have heard from others, you know, that actually find Americans to be kind of insincere and inauthentic. So maybe this perception I have is skewed from, you know, I'm not sure, but I think it spills over to, you know, outside of America. I don't think Americans are the only people guilty of this, but in the name of niceness, they eventually don't even know what they want, let alone what they stand for, okay? Let alone what they stand for. And so what I'm saying is we want to see a world changed. We want to see more light and more freedom. This is one of the key ways. It's great, you know, to write and do your social media, make your podcast and do your Steam It posts. But in addition, it's that, you know, it's right there. It's like those little hang-ups, those little triggers. That's the work. That's the opportunity. And that's what's been shocking me. I'm like, oh my gosh, like how many times, like imagine if it's like I'm being like, ooh, I got to stop this because I have to get home and talk with Eric on this, you know, on his show, which is amazing. But I shouldn't also lose sight of the fact that like on the way here, you know, there's a variety of chances to be human and to be honest, like all the time.
Okay, so those conflicts around there, that is where the work is. I hear about that's a very those are found from those.
Yeah.
That in between there is stimulus and there's space and there's response, and in between that space there is freedom. So makes sense. And
Yeah.
and okay, and you think that is definitely and so this honesty is that in that we there's a lot of passiveness. Is that that's what you see? That's mainly the norm in the culture.
Yes.
And if I heard you correctly in just previous conversations, however, you think that is specifically an NVC, nonviolent communication, for those that don't know that acronym. Yeah.
What about it? What about NVC? Do I think what?
That is that there is a lot of as passive there, and I think yeah, that she's let's find the exact quote. Is more empathy.
Oh, the sound quality got bad. Could you repeat that one more time? Sorry, Eric.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you feel like that's in a non-communication is particular that it's mainly passive, or is that it's?
Oh gosh, no, that's not.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, hold on. So the context for that statement was I was saying that because I have great appreciation for NVC, but for self responsibility. You know, I love NVC. As parameters for me working out my stuff and taking ownership for how I feel about things done. But for communication between two people, I do have great frustration with it. I just feel like very confined with it, and I was just wanting you to know that, like, for instance, the way that like I'll be offering one-on-one sessions, that I was saying that it would be very NVC inappropriate. It would not be. It wouldn't be. You know, it's what I found. It was interesting because with lavish listening, a lot of people seem challenged with all that spaciousness. And so, like, while they liked the idea of like, ooh, this designated amount of time, to really be, heard and everything. I mean, it's like, and so it would be, and so I just like really wanted to leave it, up to the person to bring whatever they wanted to grow. And as a result, I would stay very small in the space, or it would be my hope or my intent to stay very small and be more like loving observer, loving witness. And so I was not facilitating clarity, lucidity, truth, and honesty. And so I feel like that's a grace that I was given. I feel like I've been actually like living that way all my life and just thinking that I was socially inappropriate, or feeling that like, am I rude? Am I bitchy? Because I want to tell the truth about how I feel. And it's not because, and I don't want to do it in unkind ways. That's not, so that's one thing. I know people sometimes have a knee-jerk reaction about truth and honesty, because then they automatically think, ooh, dagger, ooh, knife, it's going to hurt, it's going to be, and it shouldn't, like I'm presenting social honesty, the idea of it as something that is, paired with kindness. And because truth without love, without kindness, can be, horrid, and certainly hard to swallow. So I definitely advocate kindness and and gentleness when appropriate. But but the thing that's being corrected, like just in terms of at large, is this frailty Grown people just frail, unable to just say what is true for them. And I mean little things, not, I mean, it's, you know, in order to get to the big guys to say, no, Federal Reserve, get your hands off my money, we're going to have to first say, no, darling, I need Netflix and nap. We got to do baby steps. So we have to first get true with ourselves. And I'm just sick of it. The deception, the deceit, and so much. And you know, we're like, oh my God, you can't trust the media. You can't trust journal. You know, I mean, all the, you know, the lies routinely coming through on every screen. But also, like, we have to attend to the lies that are generated within our own self. And that's how we create a more true world. And so, I don't know, I'm like, you know, yes, it's awesome, like for the big events and the big grand sweeping motions and stuff. But I think that there is something that's been, you know, it, like Orwell said, it is revolutionary to tell the truth in an age of universal deceit. That's where we are right now. And so, you know, to all people, regardless of what their crusade is and whatever, you know, letters and adjectives they've used to describe themselves, I think we all need more truth. All of our relationships, all of our connections, you know, being more true to ourselves, and then being more true with others, and then that's how that concentric thing goes out.
Yeah, I can be honest. There have been times where I've used it very robotically, and it has many times when you, of course, you think of it just like a Jedi mind trick type thing, and you just want people to do what you want them to do, and it's how to fulfill your needs, whatever, and it's easy to forget that because, I mean, well, everything we do is just, from the NBC perspective, is a strategy to meet a need, and some of them are pretty goddamn important, my perspective. Well, all of them are. And I think, and it is important to say, okay, it's important to having that being, as you says, that pause, wherever give yourself some empathy, and because it really, you have to, before you can really really receive empathy, you have to be able to give it, and not people are not always going to be giving you, and you're going to have to really, before you understand what's going on, and before you're able to give it. You're probably the only one to have to give where you're going to get empathy from, receive it from. So,
how would you describe it, Eric? Or just, you know, like, you know, the giving yourself empathy. I'm just curious, like, how would you describe or define doing that?
Well, it starts obviously with a pause, and it can be frustrating because I don't have sometimes it doesn't seem like I have a lot of time to do this on this process. But it can be just simply having notice, and it does when you first get started. Even now, it does that. I do have my feelings and needs inventory sheet on my phone with this, and if you had a chance to at least look through it, while you're flustered, and at least look through see what you're feeling. And that does seem, and that I can understand, like some might find that robotic and anything, or when you're dealing with someone like this. But I can say for this, many times when looking through that, I am actually thinking about that. I am actually there's empathy going on. I'm thinking about what they exactly are feeling, what their needs are, and there's connection going on. Mm-hmm. And but I think I'm going to skip topic. You asked, how do I empathize myself? Well, I consider that's somewhat very meditatively, and it's a quick pause, and it can take maybe a few minutes, sometimes hours later. There's really doesn't have the time, but just really doing it, just making just what am I feeling, just noting that of course just what is actually happening, with objectively. That all is not my subjective experience, my judgments. And with me, their biggest thing that's most liberating is just discovering that as far as morality is concerned, that's all subjective. So what I think as far as good, what people think is good is bad, that's just people's opinions of that. But we can say what is objectively happening, what needs are being met. that we all do share is that is one thing we can say though without opinion exists.
Beautiful. Thank you.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that. Yeah. So yeah, now I'm very relaxed as I said that. Yeah. That is I think is one thing that was the thing that's one thing that I think that freed me the most in the past few years is letting go of moralistic judgments. Those I mean I still eventually have those thoughts, but those are just a result of just unmet needs and feelings. So yeah.
Yeah, I like, okay, you brought the list up, you know, the list of feelings and the list of needs. and and I also agree with both of your statements about it that it can feel robotic, but when glancing through them, then it's like I'm quickly reminded of like how many feelings and needs that like are not just always on my mind, so that it's useful, it's helpful to have that, you know, as a quick reference. And so, you know, I'm not a purist, and I really and I love things that work. So yeah, actually, so I make use of those. I make use of lists like that also.
So what I'm kind of getting right now is I don't think we disagree on much. Maybe it's semantics. I don't know if that's how important that is. I don't know if you found anything so far that you disagree with, or that's just what I see.
About what you shared about how you self-empathize?
Empathize or empathy is what I've heard about the social honesty so far.
I don't know like how to talk about social, let's see, you want to talk about social honesty like in comparison with it?
Sure, well go ahead.
Is that what it's sure? So okay, it's a little hard to do, but I'll try. But it's just like I don't feel that masterful of NVC. I don't think I know it so well. But the hunch I have, I don't, you know, in terms of like possibly a difference.
Yeah.
Is that whereas like with NVC, there seems to be a lot of guessing or, you know, like the exploration of kind of like, you know, well, how do you feel about this? And, you know, so it seems to be much more exploratory, but it feels like it's like surface level exploratory. For social honesty, we're past that. We already know there's a conflict. You already have knowledge of a truth that has made itself known to you, and it's bumped up against something in the world. So it's already has a different task because, you know, it's whereas like I feel like NVC and maybe like its approach toward, you know, conflict or reconciliation. I don't know. I can't really even comment on it. I just because I can't really comment on it. I can comment on social honesty because that's what showed up for me to voice. But I would say that like it's learning that this truth inside of you has actually an additional purpose beyond just what you think, you know, like let's say like that the corporate worker doesn't want to work in corporate anymore. They want a freer work experience. Okay, that's the truth. That's the objective truth. Right. And then, but the surprise is that as you start, you know, in whatever way to actualize that truth, that's where the additional purpose of it shows up. Because like even the journey from, say, a corporate job that you don't like to a more creative or spacious freelancing thing, I mean, like all along the way, that's where the transformative work can happen, you know, like for the person to become empowered and to say, I have generative power. I can create finance with my skills. And I mean, like, whatever. I mean, there's 1,000 things that can happen, but just to recognize, like, that, man, that thing that was in you that showed up as discontent, it is such a thing of value. Attend to it. Attend to it.
Thought my computer just back for a second. Okay.
Oh.
Let's, I think that was maybe just or something. But okay. All right. So
For the social honesty, the goal, there's a goal, and the goal is to help the person who, it's generally out of fear. It might be some other, extenuating circumstances, but generally it's fear from some whatever reason, conditioning, the way they were parented, insecurity, lack of confidence, whatever, or feeling constrained by debt, whatever. But it's to get the person connected enough, like, to their own worth, their own value, their own lovability, to their own truth, so that they can say it out loud to the person who has to hear it, who needs to hear it. And I'm wanting to partner with people to have those hard conversations and to do that work. So the way that I'm wanting to advance social honesty in the world, is to talk about it and to say it is a legitimate, needed thing. This will change our interpersonal relationships in the world around us. If we were to like decide that actually fallacy is undesirable, let's call that rude. Let's call that, antisocial. How about that? I think lying is really antisocial. Shit. And quit, and let's stop shaming truthful people as bitches. How about that? That's a start, and then I want to build the person up and just help them get to that place to where they're able to say the thing that they want to say to their lover, their parent, whomever.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, all right, let's say if NBC or Lavish Listening or maybe something else, those can be considered the means, and social honesty, that is the ends. That's like this. Yeah, that's the those are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. Yeah.
Okay. So right.
And
yeah,
I guess there is, but there is that aspect of it that is like that's also a little contemplative. So that might be in common with NVC, because like the person has got to remove the deceit from themselves, so that you can't be honest with someone else and you're lying to yourself. So like that first level of honesty is with yourself, and it's like duh, but it's amazing if anyone has ever had the experience of like being deluded and then not being deluded, being under an illusion. I believe in Santa. I don't believe in Santa. I thought 9/11 was an outside job. I now know that it wasn't. Like whatever that bridge of knowledge was, you're different, and from that removal of illusion. And so that's the first work. It has to happen, and then the second. But yes, ultimately it is like so that honesty would be, Whereas I don't know, like if NBC would say that its greatest goal is, what would you say? What would you say is the greatest goal of NBC?
I would say that's very interesting, because there's both, whenever we talk about, NBC, there's two different components of that. There's the practicality, just how this can affect your lives, and there's the principles of it. What does it say? And, if there's the principles of this, if everyone had followed it, what would that mean for everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like how important is it and I think this essentially is meeting our needs without the expense of everyone else's. And yes, and there's many we can go on with that, and there's also requests and versus demands but yeah, ultimately, this especially, like, let's repeat that, is that there's especially when we're you're like presenting this to like libertarians or anarchists, like why they should do this. There is the practicality, how this could help you, deal with, I don't know, just go out and hand out literature to out on the college campuses, or deal with like your quote unquote status relatives during Thanksgiving or whatever. And there's also the principles of that, which are, I would say, in my opinion, is a recipe for volunteerism. And which kind of is a very good segue into what I was about to ask you. Is like what the end game of social honesty? What are the implications of if this was the norm? Like, what do you think? What exactly we would have? Like, yeah, and
that's how come I was like, I'm changing everything to build on this, because this is a freaking game changer. If people really grasp the fact that it doesn't serve them to be nice and dishonest, it does not serve them. If and quit making exceptions. Well, sometimes a little white light. Just stop. Just like embrace the power that it's like. You can't help things change. Because that's just what happens. Like we talked about, even you and I. Just even before we press record, just having even little mini sessions of me say, like, should I share with the one example about with the fan thing as a little mini example of social honesty? Okay, so hopefully this recording will be made better as a result of me practicing one little act of social honesty. Like, so before we pressed record, I was wanting to confirm that Eric was able to hear me in the light of another device going on in my apartment. And so that was important. We had a lot of other things going on and stuff. And so I needed to say, I was like, Eric, please, can you please answer me and let me know if you're able to hear me? So it was a little thing, but I knew that, like, if before we recorded, if I didn't have that knowledge, it would be irritating me, or, so it's a very small thing, but as a result, change happened. I had to like say, I respect myself enough and I respect this conversation enough to want to just take the time and check that out with him. And then I don't know, like, if that did anything for you, even energetically or relationally, but like when I'm connecting with someone on a level of honesty, I just feel like that much closer, that much freer, much more connected. I don't know. Can you speak to your experience of like having been on the receiving end of that little?
Well, that was. I was very appreciative that you wanted to make sure that I did quality of that, and the fact that that connection was important, and yeah, I do appreciate the authenticity of that. So it did help.
And then in the and so we start there, these little baby ways, and then you work it up, and then to the ultimate principles in here versus the reality out there. How does it line up? Me being a citizen of this nation, how does it line up? My complicence with tax day, like so that those hard, that's the ultimate hard shit. Yeah. And that's the stuff that we're like, we typically avoid, I think. And, because it's hard, because choices have to be made. And that's why I said, this is where you work it out. It's tension up in there. That's the workspace. But it's also the makeup space and the play space, so a lot of great things happen there too. Basically, whatever two humans can, do together. But that's where that work is made. Yeah. And whether you're driving your car and then here comes the officer. How are you going to navigate that? How do you, and then it's like, so then like many people in the States might feel a knot in their throat. They might feel instantly disempowered. They might feel like, well, what can I do if I'm up against a cop? Well, then maybe that will inform your decision on whether or not you wish to continue living in such a place, or if you wish to try to create some new system. You know what I mean? But like that knot in your throat, that inability to even know how you would respond by being an honest person in connection with a bullying policeman. Work it out. Yeah. And this is for the person who's serious about chewing up their life, chewing it up, making it a more honest life. then, you know, it might take months or years. I don't know. I appreciate the you know, just how difficult these things are. But just because it's difficult doesn't mean it can keep getting avoided. And I just think that, like, when I looked across the landscape, I'm like, and that's when I made that post today, and I was like, I just, you know, that honesty is an unlearned behavior, and I am disappointed and disgusted. The older I get, the more I'm like, I can't believe this. These are grown adult people, and we're, you know, and still too afraid to just say what the hell is true for us, even as simple as, I don't want to go to dinner. My God.
Okay, so let's go on. So we can just explore that thought for a second. Honesty is not a learned behavior. So
honesty is an unlearned. I'm saying honesty is unlearned, which is horrid. It means we came in with the right stuff and then got it warped.
Or dishonesty, yes. So our natural state, we'll say, is that if babies were born and then they were raised by, I don't know, robots later, whether they would and say they're not incapable of lying or whatever. So you think they would not learn? They would not be able to lie. They would eventually not be able to lie.
Yes, I believe that. Another interesting sample could be, like, if anyone knows, like, it's like mentally handicapped people. My uncle, you know, he's in his late 70s, but he stopped developing cognitively at around 5 or 6. So he's maintained this childlikeness his whole life. Can't lie. Can't, you know, and I mean, that's true of a lot of, like, people that, and it's because they have, or even like autistic people, like anyone who is beyond the reach of social conditioning. So people who are quote unquote mentally ill, or, you know, it's like, for whatever reason, cognitively, they can't pick up those cues on, I have to modify myself in exchange to be liked. They can't even get it because it's like too, I don't know, they can't grasp it. It's beyond their purity, their innocence. So yes, I do believe that, you know, any person who would be left alone or just like not distorted, I believe that they would, you know, I believe that they would be honest people. I don't think anyone is born that way. I don't believe that. You know, but I do see where it's like really quickly, I mean, the parents are lying, the household is lying, Santa's coming, for God's sake, Easter Bunny, you know what I mean? And we're like, and again, we'll say like, oh, come on, but that's just fun for the kids. Okay. But it's also just adding to the layers of, you know, of calcified dishonesty. I mean, you know, so I don't want to just, I feel like I'm being such a, you know, like a downer. I don't want to, I think honesty is fun. I think it's awesome. Like, tell the truth and then find the freedom in that. Like, that's the freedom. It's like, fun, you know?
Yeah, it's, you can have fun with your kids and still not lie to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, how about that shit? It is frustrating. Yeah, I agree.
New traditions, that's all I'm saying. I'm like, man, this stuff is whack, okay? And it's got us operating at like 10% capacity. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. Ugh. So anyway, I want to help.
Yeah, and this is, from that, you mentioned, of course, this is also another thing could be just for punishments in terms of this other children's, and then of course they have reason to lie because they don't want caught or just hurting their feelings or this other thing, but
yeah.
So if they're bad people, then they have they need to be punished or be corrected. And
yeah.
Yes, and yeah, and also the thing you did say in the post, which I don't know if this might be semantics or not, but you did say something about rewarding honesty like that, and that's I'm probably sure we're on the same page, but I'm sure you of course it's good to appreciate honesty, show appreciation for that. We like to do it, but I think it's really, just as teaching also, like if it's, I don't know, they're like almost can be manipulative in a sense, like, although you need to this or this, that, or okay, okay, you were quiet, your nap, you took your nap time, whatever, so here's a treat, whatever, but so in that sense, so I do think I would just be clear. I'm pretty sure we are in agreement on that. But
okay, I love that. I love that you're clarifying that. That's excellent. Yeah. So yeah, I want to clean that up. Yep, because I don't want to get into manipulation. Yeah, I think I would just say, like, in the context of guiding a child. Yeah. And so, like, wanting to, so like in that sense, the reward is like, I mean, maybe the reward is just like, the absence of punishment, but that you will not experience penalty for being honest. So that's all, so that it, because like I got, I was raised with this uncompromising understanding of honesty, and maybe that's how come that's why I ended up the way I did, a little socially irreverent, because honesty was given greater value in my upbringing. So honesty is the best policy, I was told, even to the even to my naivete. And so there was a mixed message that happened in my I think I was in like 5th grade at Catholic school. And, we would have to practice the songs to sing, like during Mass, like a practice of Mass. And so on this one day, the entire class was in the church singing these hymns, and people were chatty, and it was just a chatty day, 5th graders. And so the nuns were really pissed. They were just irritated. And when we got back from chapel to the classroom, it was like a cacophony. There was nothing but just like crazy noise. It was a class, creation, right? It wasn't like 2 or 3 people. It was like the whole class. But the principal and the teacher, they're like pacing the room because they wanted to, like, I don't know. I remember it. You'll see why, because I ended up getting beat at the end of it. That's how come it stands out in my mind. But it was like they wanted to get to the bottom of like the noise making. So they wanted, I didn't, now in hindsight, I understand that they were looking for a sacrificial lamb. I didn't understand that at the time, but this is what they did to the class, that everyone was making noise. And let it be clear that I was quiet back then. I mean, I'm still can be quiet even now. I'm passionate right now. So I mean, I seem that way, but I mean, I was the quiet kid. And I was the one who was doing what was asked of me. Okay, so I was not a troublemaker. And so they were like, they were so disgusted with our behavior, and they just wanted to know. So we want to know who was causing the noise. If you were making the noise, stand to your feet. So instantly, everyone's looking around, because we all know we were all making noise. And then I hear my mom's voice, honesty is the best policy. So I thought, because I knew, because the principal was pacing, and she had her paddle. It's a wooden paddle with holes drilled in it to create suction, because the hit isn't enough. You got to hit and then get that suction. And it was 5th grade, so that was 5 of them on my behind. Okay? So she's pacing, walking, carrying this paddle, asking for people. So I thought that I could evade the paddle by being honest, because it was supposed to be the best policy. So I waited, because I'm waiting to see, like, is anyone else gonna? Is anyone else gonna? And then I was just like, I went for it like a freaking scout, like an idiot. I stood up. I was the only one to stand up. And I got my ass whooped for it. So what I mean is, don't do that. You understand? Yeah. Clearly, I was not the only one making the noise. You know what I mean? But I mean, like, so like that was a travesty of justice that day. It pissed me off, but it didn't deter me from the power of truth. It was just, that was an example of like how not to do it. Come on, So anyway, But I look back, if I would look back on it with compassion, I realize, whatever. I mean, these women are so miserable and unhappy. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't know. I think they were. So,
That could be another episode in itself, but
huh?
that could be another episode in itself.
Oh, the child abuse in Catholic schools?
Yeah, organized religion and
Oh, goodness.
shit, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for hearing that. You're so sweet. I didn't mean to like dump that on you, but I was like, what a perfect example of how not to respond to to honesty.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think that, human nature, we're strong. Humans are strong. And because, George Carlin, I love like one of his things about sugar-coatedness, and how he even talked about like back in the day, it used to be shell-shocked, and now we've traveled all the way, and then it was like war fatigue, and now we're all the way to post-traumatic stress disorder. And, it's just interesting, shell-shocked PTSD, and that's kind of the case for everything, the words, you just say, oh, snowflake, nigga, bitch, whatever, and it's like these words, they're words, but it's like what we ascribe to them, they're like atomic bombs. And you know what I mean? Like that kind of fragility is just like, it's misused. It's just misused. And anyway, we're tougher than that. We're tougher than that. We can handle the truth, and we should start trusting each other with it in kindness. I'm not advocating, just some kind of like, massacre of words. I'm suggesting, I really ultimately what I want is just to see more coherence that we could enjoy in ourselves and then with each other.
More, consciousness. No, and there's more people at least taking the time and is self-reflecting what's going on with them when they are offended by someone not standing for a special song or a football game or
Yeah, it's a lot of work to do, huh? A lot of empathy needed in the world and in ourselves.
Yeah, I'm very inspired to see that some anarchists that I respect are sort of just leading the charge on that, and at least talking more about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm real grateful for that, because I feel like a strength I've seen in the movement is the strength of analysis and critical thought and logical debate. And crypto savviness, but in terms of soft skills, whoa. So I definitely, love and celebrate people that are adding that to our lexicon as well. Compassion, empathy, interpersonal connection, suspended moral judgment, like those things to accompany like this very strong, skillful oratorial skill, but if you're a great speaker but no one wants to talk to you, well, what's the point of that? So I'm encouraged to see more of it on our landscape too.
Yeah. So yes, we've been talking for quite a while now.
Yeah, I thought so. I didn't even dare look, but yeah, it's probably long.
It can be like this shit. Like it's conversations. You don't really know exactly where to fucking land. It's just so intense. A lot of meat there and gone for a while. But just I guess we can end off. We'll probably pick up on a lot of these topics again. And but I guess before you go, if you have anything you want to plug, website.
Oh, okay. Yes, I would love for people to come to my site at empathicwriter.com. And if you sign up for my mailing list, then you will get a free report that I've created on social honesty. And then I'll stay in touch with you about other things supporting that, about being, truer to show her to you.
Hmm.
So,
All right.
thanks, Eric.
Thank
It
you.
was awesome talking with you.